Hello and welcome to the Habit Coach podcast. I'm Ashdin, doctor, your habit coach. And today with us, we have one of my bestest friends. Okay, she's just written a book and I can't be more proud of her. And I was part of the entire journey of when she was starting to write the chapters and I saw all of this happening. So I said, Kubs, when this happens, you have to be on the podcast. So let's welcome Kubbra Sait on the Habit Coach podcast. For a second time, Kubs. This is the second time we're doing this.
Isn't that awesome? How many people can say they've been on the Habit Coach twice?
4.
See, this is the problem. You should not do business with your friends.
And
this is a promotional video only.
And our entire podcast is going to be like this, okay? So
Yes.
Kubra thinks I have come with questions to ask her.
Oh, and you don't?
I have 0 questions because that is not how we normally have conversations, right?
And I think that was the genesis of like Wisdom Wednesdays.
Correct.
You know, like we're just like, yeah, ab iske bare mein baat kar hi lete hain. Okay, cool.
We can't keep quiet, so you might as well continue talking with each other.
Yeah, but let's do it for like public consumption. Yeah.
So Kubs, super happy that you did this book. It was fantastic. I had a blast reading it.
Thank you.
And like I was saying, every morning you were my coffee companion. I would sit with my cup of coffee and I would read a chapter. And then because we had to do this podcast, I had to finish the book. Because otherwise I would be like slowly savoring it. So Kubs, off the top of your head,
Yes.
right? What were your emotions when you first started writing this book? Because blank paper is one of the scariest things that exists, right? What were the emotions that you thought, okay, how will I start this book?
So I wasn't like thinking of writing a book myself, right? I was looking for somebody else to find a ghostwriter to help them write a book. And then when I spoke to the people involved, they were like, oh, but why don't you write a book? I was like, you're joking, right? This is not how it happens. And they're like, no, just write. So I said, come on, yeah, I've never written anything. But you have, your stories are autobiographical for commune and stuff. I said, yeah, sure. So, and they were like, well, just write 30 of them. So see, when you break it down like that, which is like, something that you anyway speak about in your habit.
Make it small, break
it up. I thought that was really easy for me to approach. And I don't think I really thought about, oh, this is chronology, this needs to go with that needs to go. But that's not my job. The editor's job is to put that together and say, hey, this sounds right with this. My job was to write. And I just wrote everything that I felt I think I needed to get off my chest. It was literally that process for me. So I think the first ever thing I wrote, which turned out to be the prologue of the book, and it's unedited, it's the way I wrote it, was, how I have a rogue geography of teeth in my mouth. And I remember somebody asked me, do you have any regrets? I'm like, after so many years of braces, also one daant is still teda. So I think that was the journey of writing the book. And I think I wrote about mum. Then I felt like I should write about my dad. Then I felt I should write about, the fact that I had gone through abortion and the fact that it is being spoken of today. And I didn't realize that the pandemic, which was such, it was a time of trial and tribulation for all of us because we all take so much solace in the running around that we do. We love saying how miserable we are because we are tired and we are busy. And this was like a leveler. It leveled us all and said, now everybody sits at home. And I think when I sat at home, instead of actually feeling uneasy with myself, instead of feeling I had nowhere to go, I felt I had so many more inroads to travel. And that's the journey I took and I started writing. But I made it fun, like how you say.
You made it a lot of fun. You turned it into a game.
I turned it into a game. I bought myself like a writing software.
Ooh la la.
Yeah, for no reason.
Microsoft Word.
No, so see, Microsoft Word is white and black or white and blue, right? This is black. This is like a deep grey
Dhakkan, you
looking
can change
thing.
the paper color.
No, see, I didn't know that. So I went and bought a new one. And I said, no, this is going to help me, right? And it was just a lot of fun. And I used to save it to Word doc and then send it out to people. But it was really cool because the whole screen would turn into this black space.
Correct.
And then I would start writing. And it was really interesting because when I would finish and I would look at the word count, it would say like 2,000 words.
You know, Kubs, I think the best part is when I was, like we were having this discussion. Like I was like, Kubs, I have to have my entire thoughts down pat before I even start putting my words down for my book. And you're like, what nonsense you're doing. Just start writing, right? I think that's that the styles are just so different in this, right?
Yeah, like you and I, we have so many things in common that we can speak about, grow, learn from each other. But at the same time, when it comes to actually doing certain things, we have such different ways of dealing with it. Like you and I are just so different in so many things, right? And I just could not understand, like, why are you finding it so hard to write? Because I wasn't finding it hard at all. And I was like, yeah, I can't overthink this.
Correct. So
it's someone else's job to overthink it.
So for me, it was start writing after I've read 4 books on how to write. So that was the fun part for me. Like how the fun part for you was getting your black page software.
Right.
For me, it is like 4 books on how to write. What are the different kinds of techniques that you can use in writing, and then start. And then
wait, so I have a question for you. My question is, out of the 4 books that you read on how to write a book, and then you read like this rookie author's book, did you find anything that was like, were there any points that I may have learned from these books that I haven't read, or were they like entirely different, like from what, like?
So I think the books talk about structure, right? Like for example, how do you convert that story into, story? Like right now, you've written the way that you talk.
Correct.
Right? So I could read your book in Kubra's voice.
Correct.
Right? When you're writing non-fiction, there is that element of how to not make it preachy.
Correct.
Right? How do you make it interesting without that aspect? So those are the things that I learned through reading those books.
Oh.
Also, how to create habits while reading, while writing, how many words per day you write, how do you make it systematic? Like you were writing when you felt that urge to.
Yeah. So thankfully, I wasn't really on a time-bound limit sort of a situation because I don't think anybody thought we're coming out of this pandemic only alive. So it's like, लिखा तो bonus, नहीं लिखा तो सब मर जाएंगे. कोई नहीं बचेगा. It was like that. It was like part 3 of Sacred Games. That never happened.
Will anybody press the button?
Exactly. कोई जिंदा नहीं रहेगा, सब मर जाएंगे types.
And I love the fact that you wrote about that in your book, by the way. How you die in every character. And I told you, see, stereotyping is happening. And you beat me up for that?
Of course I did.
Then?
Because I wasn't finding it funny at that time. And only you kind of seem to find funny things. And I'm like, no, give me love. Like, look at me, I'm injured. Give me love.
So all of you who are not seeing the video part of this podcast, and please go make sure you see the video part. It's on
yes,
YouTube.
I have a robotic arm.
Correct. Kubra was doing one of her own stunts in a show and popped her elbow.
Yeah. So, when people ask me, so how did it happen? And they think I'm going to give you a really great story. So I said, no, they asked me to run and fall. I ran and fell.
They said, come on, make up something more exciting, no? Like Aliens came.
Nah. That is your... See, this is where we are different.
So, Ayahuasca.
Oh.
Okay.
We wanted to talk about this even before the book was written.
Correct. So
because you were one of the first people I called right after the experience. You were the first people I called. And I made you walk through. I don't know whether I made any sense at all at that time because it was so fresh. But
it was raw.
It was raw. It was not processed.
Explain 30 seconds what ayahuasca is.
So ayahuasca is a plant which is found in South America. It's a vine and... it's a mixture of roots and leaves and everything's made into a concoction of sorts. And how do I say this? Correct. So, tobacco is the grandfather plant. Marijuana, as we know it, is the daughter plant. And ayahuasca is the mother. So, the mother gives you answers.
Father?
I don't know. No,
One
I
missing?
never asked. Also, we had like language barriers. She was from Venezuela. I'm from India. My shaman, who was this beautiful, beautiful lady from Venezuela. But what I'm saying is that, and maybe fathers don't have wisdom. We've written about it in the book. They should all just be forgiven in general.
Go read chapter 27. Huh?
Oh, really? He's in chapter
No,
20.
it's not.
Okay, no. So, so it's called the mother plant, and you consume the plant. And before you do so, you have a data. You have a diet that you need to follow, and the diet is not just what you eat; it's what you think. It's how you speak. It's about restraining yourself from sex for 15 days, 20 days. If you can do it for more, then it's great. But what I understood much later is that you're doing all those things which are subtle hints for you to remember what your purpose is. My purpose was to experience what the plant would do for me. What are the kind of questions that may arise when I'm in that situation of being in a trance? And I didn't realize that these little things that you do before the actual ceremony kind of lead you into that journey quite effortlessly. And that's what happened. It is a medicinal plant that allows you to have zero control. I think as human beings, if I speak for myself, I love having control over everything. This should move like that and that should move like this. And And it's so funny because when I did take the first cup, I sat there telling my mind how to breathe. I was like, now we are going to breathe. And this breath is going to be diaphragmatic. And then I'm going to breathe.
Because that's the spiritual way of us breathing.
Exactly. Because that's what we do in yoga, right? We consciously breathe. And the idea was to not have anything that holds you. And I think the first time you purge and the second time you purge, there is so much of your strength, so to speak, that leaves your body, that you also lose that element of control. And then you just let yourself go. So I was feeling cold, warm. I was shivering. I was still. I was going through a lot of physical transformations. And I was seeing a lot of light. And I was also playing many games in my head. I remember telling you this, right? I was trying to take the screenshot of that horse that runs. And you take a screenshot and you fit the horse's image in that static image. So I was trying to do that, which I was trying to play a game with my mind, my emotions, and my soul.
Trying to fit all of them together.
I was trying to fit them all together. So that was something that I had picked up as a card and it said align. I didn't know what align meant at that time. I'm learning about physical alignment now. And I've gotten better at it through yoga. But sitting there, when you talk about emotional alignment or spiritual alignment, I didn't know what that meant. And again, I'm somebody who does not do a lot of research around these things. I go by my intuition of how I feel towards the situation. And I felt right about this situation. This was something that I was reading about, learning about, watching documentaries about for a while. So when I got this incredible opportunity, I just felt like it was serendipity. I was meant to be there, and yeah, it was an overflowing experience. I think the one takeaway is that for the longest time I have felt that I am incapable of loving and not worthy of love. And I felt both those feelings went out of the door because there was this one ceremony that I did where my heart opened up and I don't know why, these are thoughts in your head that you can consciously connect to, but I felt like the floodlights had been turned on in Wankhede Stadium. It was like that. Yeah.
Have you seen a shift after ayahuasca? Have you seen a shift in life? I
feel that I am far more absorbent to what happens and less reactive to what happens. But I think it's not just how I feel about myself. I remember asking you this, and I've asked a few others. There's something there. You've become calmer. So maybe I have. But it doesn't take out the spark or the zing in your life. For me, I think it added vitality. It added joy. And I stopped being stupid about the outcomes.
Stupid about the outcomes as in desiring the outcomes? Or
yeah, it's like, oh yeah, if I have this, it'll make me happy. If I don't get it, then I'll be sad.
Fair.
Like I stopped kind of mounting expectations. Like I feel it's a lot easier for me to let go now than it was before. Like I'm far more honest with myself. Like this injury, it hurts. And like I was talking to you and I told you that, I'm yet to get to that full point in my life right now where I have accepted that 6 weeks is what it's going to take. So it is what it is. I think that kind of resonance, that kind of restraint, even in like the grounding that you need to function, I don't think that really was there. But it came to me as learning. And then I think this book wrote itself while I was there.
While you were at Ayahuasca?
I think it came to me. Like I became so comfortable with who I am that I had nothing to worry or think about. And I think
you became comfortable with your story. I think that's the critical thing, right?
Yeah. Like I became really comfortable with who I am as a person. I dropped my own judgments. And I've been that person. Like we've had this conversation wherein, I've shared with you that, I wake up in the morning, I look at myself and I say, God damn, girl, you're hot. It's going to be a good freaking day. I'm that person. I do that. I still felt that was superficial. And now I do that about even things that are going right, going wrong. And basically I address it with the same joy that I would whether it was a physical thing or not. Even emotions are treated with the same way. Like, that's fine. It's okay. Something else is coming along the way. Or this was not just meant to be. And I think that's become a lot better.
Interesting. Many of these practices where there's purging that is involved, right? In Ayahuasca, there's purging and then there is clarity. Right? That purging is essential because it's all that baggage that we're carrying that we first have to put down so that we can look at it and say, okay, what do I want to continue carrying? What do I want to leave behind?
Amen.
Right? So that purging is so essential. And then the clarity that comes from the deep dive that you went on, right? Like what you said, I was so raw because I hadn't processed what was happening at that point of time. And I think that aspect is so critical, especially when you start doing self-work.
Hello. It's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Cock and Bull, Cyrus Meghnad, Shreyas and Abbas discuss Vijay Mallya getting sentenced to jail for 4 months and fined 2,000 rupees for contempt of court. On Ikka Dukka Economy, Abhinav explains how the fiscal credentials of the government work. On Smarter with Sid, Siddharth explains the difference and importance of time in the market versus timing in the market. The Wire Talks host Siddharth Bhatia talks to history professor and secretary of JNU, Professor R. Mahalakshmi. The duo decode the ongoing Kali movie poster controversy. And on Marathi Kirkitan, the Deshmukhs recite Marathi writer Purushottam Shivram Rege's poem, Anpahat Hota. Before I leave, I just want to remind you all that we have some amazing merchandise for you guys. Please go to our website, click on the shop tab, and check out the collection of t-shirts. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. Don't forget to rate us on any other platforms you're listening to us. And remember, you can also check us out on YouTube. We're also doing a small listener survey which helps us understand who you all are, our listeners. And we'd really appreciate it if you could spare a few minutes to fill it out. It helps us build better shows for you. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Boat Lifestyle, Small Case, Capgemini, and Intel vPro. Thank you so much for making this possible.
And one of the reasons why I love talking to Kubs, I'm just talking to the audience now. I've broken the third wall, as it were.
Yeah, so he's talking to Kubs.
is because
I'm still here.
she's not gone anywhere. Everyone's gonna be like, "What's up with Ashdin?" And this is like nothing like his other podcasts. Okay, so you love doing self work, and I think that's a theme that I picked up from the entire book. Right, constantly working on yourself, constantly working on yourself.
I'm glad you saw that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
the way I saw your book was not stories but themes, because I that's what I wanted to bring out as a crux, right? Like the self work that you put inside, coming from a place of being bullied, or coming from a place of where you feel that the not enough aspect that starts off. Tell us about your self work journey. Like, where did it start from? What is the first memory that you have of saying that I need to do this as maybe self-improvement?
I think the first self-work journey started, which was pretty much out of my own bounds, which was buoyancy. Or maybe even before that, like the psychiatrist we saw. So that was not really in my control. But I think... I think for me, my self-work started with gratitude. That is something that I started. It came to me from Mama. So I started that from there. And that's something that I've taken a lot of joy and pride in. Like, I have that gratitude jar. If I'm feeling low any day, go pick up. And it's an instant booster. It's an instant lift. But apart from that, meditation has been something that joined my life and my routine recently in the last, say, I think 3 years. 3 years has been like a pretty good time to speak about meditation for me. I think when I came to this city, I was just as blinded and starstruck as anybody else is. Like, for example, I was telling you this, right? I went to Udaipur to the hospital and the doctors were taking selfies with me instead of treating my hand. And I was like, are you kidding me? So I think I was one of those people who wasn't doing my job because I was so starstruck. But when I came into my own being and I started taking pride in what I am doing, added that little bit of consistency, that little bit of dedication, that curiosity that needs to exist to do your job. That made me feel like my output was worth its while and worth my while. That encouraged me to do better. Then I met you in my life. And we've both kind of grown from the time we've met, right?
Correct.
So I think you introducing me to like certain podcasts or certain books. I started listening to audiobooks a lot more regularly because of you. I have to say thank you to, the psychic reader I spoke to while I was in the Canary Islands, where she said like she had never seen me, but or knew who I was or where I came from. But she said I could read your aura. And I was like, wow, that's pretty awesome, right? So I think there was a sense of...
What did she say about your aura?
Well, she gave me I think I have 14 pages written down from that conversation, right? Like it was 14 pages of what she had seen in my aura. And basically, like past life, present, near future, and things like that. So I thought that was quite fantastic, cool to me.
And that's it, right? We don't leave any stone unturned. When
you try everything.
You try everything, see what fits.
Yeah.
We come in with so many different, mindsets and mind frames. Like, only this works, only this doesn't.
Yeah, and I think the reason why most of us don't move from the start point is because we've already decided we can't make it.
Correct.
And I feel like I was never that person. So since I was already moving, and when these things came my way, it was just me moving my own mental weeds out of the way. So whether that needed me to use a knife or a scissor or a machete or whatever, right? Like whatever.
The tools to get there were relevant.
Yeah, whatever the tools were. I took those tools. I mean, I think my self-work, even to a very large extent, would be in the conscious world of me going into our treks.
Yeah.
Solitude, like walking in those mountains. Like you've done it and I've done it. And it's a different, there is no substance your mind, the fresh air around you, the greenery that you're absorbing, all of them put you in a state of just calmness. And when you are calm, you can think clearly. I think that's what happened. I was able to recognize a lot of patterns. Like, I've been speaking about patterns and how I need to break them. I think when I reached a place of calm within myself, I was also able to recognize the things that were bothering me, and I realized that I was enabling those complications. If I choose not to enable them, the complications will not exist. It's like how fire can't exist without oxygen.
We make our own prisons half the time.
Exactly. So I felt that was that for me. And self-work can be of any kind.
Correct.
But it does involve you to calm the fuck down. Please do that.
You said something 5 minutes ago, which was that, you came to the city and you were starstruck. And now if anybody meets you, they'll feel like, oh man, Kubra is so comfortable in her own skin and all of that. How much of that was self-work?
I think it was a lot of self-assurance. As I said, you do a good job and then you start taking that in your stride. Also, I think I was very cognizant of the fact that when I came to Mumbai as a newcomer, I was nobody. Then I became popular. And then I just crossed over to the famous... so I am in the... I'm somewhere in the intermediary of famous right now.
People know me, but I can still buy sabzis.
And eat pani puri.
Correct. So you're at that stage.
Even in pani puri, people are looking and all that stuff.
Huh.
And they're like,
Tikha khati hai.
Yeah. So all of that is happening. And I'm aware of the gaze. But I'm not uncomfortable with the gaze or just being where I am. And also Mumbai creates that ecosystem for you. Everybody is a somebody. So that really helps. I think it kind of changes when you go out of the city. And my favorite story, and I don't know if this can go in the podcast, but the story that cracks me up all the time. I had this incredible opportunity of working with Bhumi Pednekar. All right. And we had this driving scene. So we were driving from Noida towards Agra, I think. Something like that. Something in effect to that. We're driving there. We stopped by at a place. And the mobs just crowded the place. And then they were trying to take pictures with Bhumi, going like, Bhumi, aap toilet mein thi na. And, people just don't know how to say nice things. It's not because... They just don't have the vocabulary to. What they meant was like... Bhumi ji, aap wo film Toilet Ek Prem Katha mein thi na. But they were like, Bhumi, aap toilet mein thi na. So I think after a point, we all just learn how to take this in our stride. Like I get asked this, so then? Man or woman? Huh? Or like that one, no? Dear ma'am, are you self male or female?
Are you male, female?
Or both?
Do you have pennies?
Do you have pennies? So I think after a point, you just
You
get...
have to tell them the Soho House story.
Which one is that?
So, Kubra and I went swimming.
Correct.
After Sacred Games came out.
Oh, yeah.
And every single person was trying to look at her in a swimsuit, trying to figure out if she had a penis or not. You remember this? It was too funny. It was like...
Yeah.
We
and
won't
I'm
ask her, but we will subtly look and see. What is this woman
and these
up
are
to?
educated people.
Educated people.
Let's add that for the sake of it. Yeah, we all went to schools now, didn't we?
And then on the way back, okay, I don't know if this can go in the podcast either. But Koobs and I were chatting and I was like, so Koobs, you must be getting tons of dick pics, right? Because on Instagram, that's what all men keep sending people dick pics. And she's like, no, I haven't got a single one. And I was like, Koobs, I've gotten people sending me dick pics. You haven't got any. Shame. And then there was this 10-second pause. And then both of us at the same time looked at each other and said, that's because they're worried that they're going to get a dick pic back in return.
Yes! I was waiting for you to give me the punchline. Yes. Yes. I think people were just afraid in general to ask me for dick pics because my penis was definitely larger than anybody else's ever.
So that scene was epic, right? It was just it's implanted in everybody's
mind. In fact, it's been 4 years. Today is what? The 11th or something? Today, na? And this show released 4 years ago on the 6th of July. And I think around 5 p.m., as predicted by the Lordship himself, Anurag Kashyap, my life changed. Like he told me, "Tu ruk, 5 baje teri life change hogi," and it did.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
What I find weird is that was like the first scene that you guys shot.
Yeah, like
Right.
the last scene, but first day.
Last scene, first day.
First day.
So the most emotional, most epic, most was in the first day of shooting. So like no warm up, nothing, just thrown into it.
Just thrown into it. And I think that's how I run my life as well. Like I just throw myself into it. I do like a little bit of background, like a little bit of read, a little bit of like preparation. I do that, but I am somebody who follows like I'm happy to go with the current. I don't. It doesn't make sense to me to fight it. Like, oh no, I'm happy to go. I'm happy to try something new along the way. There is like a clarity on who I am and what is it that I like to do and I don't like to do. And I have my explanations for like this and this and this and this blah. But no, I don't like taking myself too seriously. I think we all take ourselves a little too seriously.
Too seriously.
Yeah, for no reason.
Alright, so that was our first episode with Kubra. Now, do make sure to listen to the next episode that's coming up. We're talking about a number of fun things from her book.